everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jane Wild, and this is Scout. Scout has been featured in some of my other videos. Mostly he's just sitting there, minding his own business, being adorable. It's impossible to do anything without him being right there in the moment. But I did think that it would be a good idea to get on my little spot on the floor. And look, one day in the near future, hopefully, I will not have to do these videos on the floor, and I will have a studio of sorts, or a chair at least, or something. I mean, I have my couch, but excuse me, I have my couch, but I like to switch it up a little bit. We don't want to do all of the videos on the couch, and sometimes the lighting's weird. Whereas right here, I'm like, I have the beautiful natural lighting on my face. So what am I doing here? I want to do another story time video. So my first story time was the first video I put on this channel, talking about the banana incident. So if you don't know about that, or you haven't seen that video, I recommend you to take a gander, whatever the word is. It's something in that vicinity of words. Take a little walk over to my channel videos and my uploads and go to the very first video, and you will get to hear me tell a story of what happened when I, a person allergic to bananas, decided to put a banana in one of my orifices. I'm not telling you which one, but you'll have to watch to find out. So I thought it's time for another story time video, and I thought today I would tell you guys my worst acid trip ever, and the last acid trip I ever experienced, because it was so bad that I was just like, I'm out, I'm good. Pardon me, it's like my nose is running. Not from drugs. Okay, we should be good. Kiss you? Kiss you, okay. So, the story begins when I was in high school. I'm pretty sure I was a senior in high school at this point, and I had started smoking marijuana at the beginning of the school year, like regularly. I tried it when I was 15, but I started smoking like on the daily pretty much when I was 17. That was a year of a lot of bad decisions and bad habits being formed. I was hanging out with a crowd that they weren't necessarily bad people. Well, some of them were, but as a whole they weren't. They were just kind of misguided, traumatized, drug-addicted teens in New York City, which is totally normal in New York City. So I had this friend group that I was like kind of in, kind of not. I always felt like the odd one out personally. But I would go along with stuff that they wanted to do because I wanted people to hang out with, and I wanted to be in favor of these people. So I tried acid for the first time because I wanted to see what all the hype was about. Everyone else in my friend group had tried acid, and they said it was amazing, so I wanted to experience a trip. So this story is not about that time, but I will say that I had sex. Well, I had a friend of mine was chaperoning me on my first trip ever. I was in my house, super safe, and I'm pretty sure I came on to him. I honestly don't remember. I think I was just horny in that moment, and we had sexual relations while I was on acid. And I always describe it, I'm like, it felt like God himself was fucking me with like a magic wand dildo. So needless to say, it felt amazing, and I was super gung-ho on acid. And then I did it a second time with my friend group, and that was also a enjoyable experience. So now we come to time number 3. So there was this guy that I knew how do I describe it? He was like a local rapper from Staten Island. Never made it big or anything, but he had one song that went like a little viral on SoundCloud, and he had a little bit of hype at that time. So, how did we meet this guy? I honestly don't even. We met, okay, he was friends with a friend of mine that I met through an acting program that I did in New York. So, we met this rapper dude. His name was. Should I say his name? I don't even give a fuck. Okay, his name was Squid Nice. Squid. So we just call him Squid. So it was spring break, so like April 2016, and he lived in Staten Island. So he came all the way from Staten Island to where I lived in Queens, which was not a short journey, to hang out with me. And I think I wanted to bang him, but I just didn't have like enough confidence in myself because he was a really good looking guy. And I just didn't feel confident in myself to like make a move. Also, I think my best friend like had a crush on him, but my best friend at the time, we don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. Anyway, so he came all the way to Queens to hang out with me. I felt like, well, this dude's coming all the way from Staten Island, which, by the way, I've been there maybe once or twice in my entire life. So I thought, I need to have something fun to do. We can't just be hanging out, smoking, doing nothing. So we need to do a little sidebar to explain the context of how I found a dealer that served me acid and any drug. There was one Saturday night that I was walking down a popular street with 3 of my friends at the time, and we were just looking to get into some shit. We were looking for a store that would sell underage people liquor, or someone that would sell us weed. We didn't have access to either of those things. So we're walking down the street. It has to be like 11 p.m. at least. And this guy like calls us over to his car. He waves us over, which is like sus. But like I said, we wanted to get into some shit. So we walk over to his car and he's like, yo, you need Xannies? And I never tried Xanax, but some of my friends, they were into the idea. And then he basically told us that he had any drug that we would want. And he even gave us, he was like, here's some free Xannies, here's some free tabs, like acid tabs. At the time, we were like so happy. Now looking back, I'm like, it's a little suspicious that some random drug dealer just handed teenagers acid tabs and Xannies and was like, here. You would think if they were any good, he wouldn't have wanted to give them away for free, but when you're desperate and tired and you just want to get high and drunk, you don't really think about the logic of stuff like that. So we were super stoked. We all got his number. His name was Snoop. And we took those Xannies and tabs home. We didn't do any, well, I think maybe like 2 of my friends did some Xanax or whatever. I think they said it was good. That part is irrelevant. So we met Snoop. So Snoop was like one of my regular dealers for a little while. Like he would serve me weed. And that's pretty much it. Like I didn't really buy anything else. But I knew he did have the tabs, the acid tabs. So I text him and I'm like, you know, can I buy 2 tabs? And he was like, yeah, I can give it to you for cheaper. The only thing is it's not pure LSD. It's like research chemical. And I was like, what does that mean? He basically said, it's the same thing. You'll still trip the same. So I, being a careless, naive, dumb, idiot teen, was like, sure, I'll take 2. So I bought 2, one for me and one for Squid. And then he got to Queens and I was like, do you want to do some acid right now? And he was like, yeah, I want to do acid with you. My previous 2 times doing acid had been really positive with good vibes, good people. So I felt like, you know, this time is going to be no different than those other times. And it's just going to be a good bonding experience for me and this guy. And maybe he will want to have sex with me. Who knows? That wasn't the goal though. Like that wasn't why I wanted to hang out with him. I don't know. There was just something about him. He had like a really cool vibe and aura. Anyway, so we do the tabs and then we start walking in the direction of like the busy street area, which is about a mile from where I lived. And we're walking, and by the time we get there, which is like 20 minutes or so, I start to feel it. Um, One thing I had noticed right away taking the tab was when you take pure LSD, it just tastes like a piece of paper. There's no flavor or taste or anything. That's how it's supposed to be. Immediately upon taking this tab, there was this very bitter, disgusting taste on the paper. And I actually ended up throwing up. When we got to, that busy street area, it started kicking in uh, more seriously. And the taste was so overwhelming that I actually threw up in the sewer. But after I threw up, I felt much better. So it starts kicking in, and I feel like I'm tripping. Like any normal tab, I'm not noticing any difference because it's research chemicals, and he seems like he's tripping too. Then what happens? We run into our mutual friend, the one that is the reason that we even met in the first place. This guy, I'm not going to say his name because we have history. So this guy is like, yo, what are you guys doing? I was like, we're tripping. It just started, kicking in really hard. And he's like, oh, why don't we go back to your place and smoke? Because this guy was not from this area. I don't know why he was hanging around. Maybe he had a friend that lived nearby, but he was like, why don't we go smoke at your place? And me just going with the flow and just wanting to have a good experience, I'm like, sure, let's go back to my place, even though we literally just walked here from there. But we didn't have a plan. We were just walking around and shit. So we start walking back. Me and this guy Squid tripping balls at this point, and the other guy is just talking about stupid, retarded shit that nobody, when you're tripping on acid, wants to talk about. He was kind of killing the vibe a little. And then he asked if he could invite his other guy friend to smoke with us. So at this point, this one dude that I do know is already killing the vibe for me. And then he's asking, can his friend come that I don't even know personally? I wanted to say no because everybody knows when you do acid. Scout, come here. Da. Da, da, da. Everybody knows when you do acid, you want to be surrounded by people that you like, people that you're comfortable with, and just keep the good vibes going, because with acid, your mental state is very fragile in the moment, and any random thing that happens can just take your consciousness on like a roller coaster ride. So you don't want there to be any bad vibes, bad energy, weird people making you feel self-conscious. So I didn't speak up. I didn't say anything about not wanting anyone else to come. I was like, yeah, it's fine. And I figured, like, maybe it'll be nice. Maybe people will be giving good vibes and improve the trip. So we get to my garage. And my garage when I was in high school was kind of like a den for potheads. There were some chairs set up, and when you close the garage door, it was like a little private room. Very like that 70s show. And I would smoke there almost every single day, if not every single day after school. So it was just a perfect hangout drug spot. So we get to my garage, the three of us. And then the other guy that my friend asked if he could come, he shows up with another girl that I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. So now there's 5 of us. And I'm like, okay, this is not ideal, obviously, for a trip, but you just gotta make the most of it on acid. You can't be too concerned with like logistics and little things, because then you'll drive yourself into a bad trip, and nobody wants that. So we get there, we all sit, the 5 of us, in chairs in like a circle, and somebody rolls a joint and we start smoking cigarettes. And there's this one thing that I remember so distinctly, and it just makes me really feel like acid or chemical, whatever it was, is so powerful in the way that it like makes your brain move. Basically, we're sitting in the darkness and someone has their phone flashlight on, so it's just casting like one, circle of light on the wall, and it's making a shadow go on my dad's bicycle. So there's a shadow of a bicycle on the wall, right? Somebody puts on like a beat, which a beat is a song with no words yet. It's just kind of like a produced sound that rappers like write freestyles over or whatever. So somebody puts on a beat and it sounds like a song from the 1950s, like one of those like tiptoe through the window, like something like that. It might have been that song, actually. I don't even remember. Something of that vibe. And this dude Squid just starts like freestyling over it. And it's going on like a loop and a certain beat. It's just, the beat is like looping over and over again as he's freestyling. And at some point, the shadow of the bicycle just starts like moving. And it's like going, when you're counting sheep and you're just picturing like sheep going over a fence like over and over. That's how it was, but just with a bicycle going over and over in a circle. And eventually I started seeing like shadows of children running around and all this like weird 1950s stuff. And it just really created the atmosphere. And I was having a good time. I was like, this is dope. The research chemicals are dope. Everything's cool and fun. Any bad vibes in that moment were just completely not there. So that little moment ends and we're chilling. And then the dude and his girl, they decide to leave, which I'm actually kind of like happy about, because not that they caused any bad vibes, but I just don't like hanging out with people I don't know. It's not an enjoyable thing for me to do. So they leave, and then I'm assuming that me and Squid are just gonna keep hanging out or something and watch a movie, and maybe, the other friend as well. But then he's like, oh, dude, there's a free in the city we gotta go to. If you don't know what a free is, it's this dumb term that like city kids use for like a free crib, like a kickback or something. Oh, we gotta go to this free. There's a free. It's so stupid. Like, a free what? Free what? How much harder is it to say a free crib than just a fucking free? But I digress. So he says to Squid, dude, we gotta go to this free in the city right now. And I'm tripping my ass off over here. And I'm like, wait, you're leaving? And this fucking sober dude, well, not sober, but not tripping on acid, looks at me and he's like, yeah, sorry, we gotta go. First of all, in my mind, I'm like, this dude came from Staten Island to Queens to hang out with me. You just happened to run into us. You wouldn't even be sitting here with us right now if we didn't randomly see you on a street corner. But then he's like, no, we gotta go. And the other Squid is just tripping fucking balls. So he's not putting up a protest. He's just going with where his friend is going. And they leave. And then I find myself completely alone, tripping at my house. And I was just, well, first of all, I wasn't expecting that. And you really want to avoid unexpected things happening, especially unexpected negative things like being ditched by everyone and left alone during a trip, because like I said, that can just make your stream of consciousness can just kind of plummet and just go in a really bad direction. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I immediately start panicking. My heart is like pounding really hard and fast. And when you're tripping, you can get reality like confused with what is the trip, which is why it's always a good idea to either have a sober person with you or somebody that's very experienced in tripping that can like help guide you through it. And if you start having a moment where you're like losing touch between what is real and what is just part of a trip. Someone can be there to snap you out of it and be like, listen, this is just a trip. You're not in danger. Everything is fine. I didn't have anyone to do that. So I start panicking and spiraling a little. And I just start feeling really bad about myself because I already had low self-esteem and had this underlying feeling that none of my friends actually liked me or cared about me. But that's something that you just kind of push to the bottom of the pit because you don't want to deal with stuff like that when you're just a high school kid, the realities of the world. But because I was in like a negative headspace from what had just happened, being ditched by the people I was hanging out with, I started going there. My brain started going there and my brain started telling me how alone I was. And not just like physically alone in the moment, like you're alone right now, but alone, like nobody really understands you, nobody cares about you, nobody's gonna be there for you in tough times. It felt crazy. It literally felt like nothing I ever experienced before. It felt so real. It felt like what I was thinking was the truth, and I'm like having this intense major discovery right now, and I'm just realizing that nobody in my life gives a fuck about me. I'm completely alone and I'm always going to be alone. And that was quite a tough pill to swallow for a 17-year-old. So I go in my house because when this started happening, I'm standing outside my house, like just left the garage, everybody dipped, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go inside. So I go inside, and people, they usually want to avoid their family members when they're on drugs. I would have loved if anyone in my family had been home, because even if I had to admit I'm tripping my ass off right now and I'm not in a good place, at least I would have had a person, and a sober person, to tell me that everything's going to be okay, you're not alone. But nobody was home at that time. It was spring break, my parents were at work, and my brother was doing something. So I was by myself, and I got really scared. I was like, I don't know what is going to happen right now. The thoughts screaming at me, you're alone, nobody cares. They were just getting so loud. I tried putting on a movie or the TV or something, and it was just like how everything is on acid, sounded like aliens and crying babies. And nothing was loud enough or powerful enough to get the negativity out of my brain in that moment. So I realized, I was like, I'm gonna kill myself if I don't get somebody over here right now to talk me down and calm me down a little bit. So I ended up calling a friend, or I think they might have been hanging out together. Two of my friends came to my place, and they just like, they didn't really comfort me. I guess they comforted me indirectly because they weren't saying like everything's gonna be okay, but just them being there, their presence, and also them like talking about other stuff to kind of get my mind out of the rut that I'd been stuck in. It was almost like a sand pit on a golf course, and it's like you're just trying so hard to get out and think of anything else, and it's just not letting you. But they were able to help me get my mind off of that, and then I eventually started to come down from the trip, and I mean, everything ended up fine. I don't have any lasting damage from the situation, but I'll never do acid again, just because it brought up things that I didn't even know were there. Like that whole alone thing, I did not realize like how much that really affected me, and how much I really feel like that is kind of true, or at least at that time in my life I felt like that was true. Like acid really brings out the truth. So as far as the research chemicals, to this day I don't know if that was the reason the trip went sour, because the other two times they tripped on regular LSD, it wasn't a problem. So I don't know. It could have also just been the bad vibes of the people that ended up around me that day. And it could have just been other stuff. So I'll never really know. But what I do know is that acid is not something to play around with. We saw it almost like candy or like a game or a toy. It's a tool, and it's a very powerful tool. It's almost like a power drill or something. So you can use a power drill to do some really good things, or it can really fuck up your life and you can fucking die. So that's my story of my worst acid trip ever. We'll never be doing acid again. Shrooms is a little different. Hope you guys liked this little story time video. If you guys want to hear me tell some more stories, let me know in the comments, like, what stories you would like to hear. I have a lot from my time in the industry or crazy adventures in high school, or even childhood stuff. I'm down to talk about whatever. And if you liked this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel if you don't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless, and thank you, Scout, for being such a little baby. He was a good little co-star for this video. And yeah, have a lovely day. Thank you. I love you.